Alright, I wanted to continue something that I really started last week on Friday, discussing about how do I do weddings, how do I book weddings, and so forth. We've discussed in previous videos, which you can see, the laws of officiating in weddings in different states. We're mostly talking about states that I have experience with. I'm actually in between two weddings right now. I officiated one wedding in Washingtonville, New York, and now I'm heading to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I'm in New Jersey now. And like I mentioned in the previous video, that when I started doing weddings, there was WedPlan. That was where I got a lot of leads. It was probably one of the best places I got leads. There was also a website, Craigslist, that, I didn't really get a whole lot of leads, but since it's free, it's worthwhile. Also sometimes to look for leads, and that sometimes would be where I would get the leads from. People are posting that they're, in event gigs. They're posting that they're looking for wedding officiant, wedding minister, wedding rabbi, so forth. So sometimes I pick up weddings there, and also placing ads there. Placing the ads does run a risk because there are a lot of scams. I don't know exactly what the point of these scams are. And when I would place ads on Craigslist, whether for wedding officiants, or more common, which I don't really understand, is offering lessons for like bar, bat mitzvah, things like that, tutoring. You get these weird phishing emails that I don't really understand what the purpose is of them, but they'll say, my daughter is 12 years old, my son is 12 years old, there's going to be in your town from this date to that date, and what's your rate and your address and so forth. And some of the tip-offs that it's a scam, again, I'm not sure what the purpose of the scam is first of all, it doesn't specify the name of the town. It just says your town. There'll often be things all in capitals, and there'll often be spelling errors and grammatical errors, which are kind of tip-offs that it's a scam. Again, I'm not sure what the purpose of this scam is, but it's something to be aware of, especially when using sites like Craigslist and the like. And then the other thing was the town clerks, the city clerks themselves would send me leads, which was awesome. In Richmond, I remember they actually maintained a list of officiants, both civil and religious officiants, and they often would refer folks to me. I remember also, and I would sometimes meet them at the city hall and so forth. Then there was Henrico County only maintained a list of, and Richmond actually had a room where I could go, Richmond City, where I could go and perform the weddings downstairs in the city hall. Henrico County only maintained a list of civil officiants, which were retired judges, but they, again, like I said, the judge wasn't there at the courthouse. You had to go and make an appointment with him, usually meet him at his house. Really almost wasn't worthwhile. Whereas I would come meet folks either at the courthouse or at their homes for their convenience. Although I'm sure some of the judges did the same. But for the most part, they didn't need to. They weren't, that extra, whatever, $50 they're going to get wasn't really worth their time even. As for me, it was definitely worth my time. It still is if it was something, that local and, that simple. And then I remember there was another courthouse, Chesterfield. Oh, but Henrico would let me do the weddings there. So sometimes I'd meet folks there and help them with the weddings. Chesterfield once sent me like a nasty letter. They said, do not do weddings here, do not solicitate people for doing weddings and so forth, whereas the other courthouses didn't mind. So each place was different, and that was my experience. Now, I remember when I moved to New York, I had a very hard time booking any weddings, and I didn't really know where to turn to, how to get these leads. Maybe the first year that I was in New York, I did 1 or 2 weddings. I did very, very few weddings. And whereas when I was in Richmond, I was doing at least 1 a week. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? How do I get the leads? So I discovered a website which I had joined earlier, but I didn't really know how it worked, and then I got more into it, and it was just developing at the time, and I learned more about it. And this has been, for me, the website that's given me the most business since I've really become very active in it, and it's Thumbtack. And we'll get back to that, but I'll mention a few other websites as well. So, again, still, Craigslist is still worthwhile checking out every now and then, and placing ads every now and then in the services, event services. Having business cards, putting them around, it's worthwhile every now and then. I've tried print advertising, haven't gotten anything really from that. I've tried going to wedding expos. Also, was not successful with the wedding expos. Some people aren't, some people aren't. Everybody has their own, their own approach and their own thing. There's another website, which is considered to be one of the better websites, which I had personally not very good experience with, was Wedding Wire. And then there's a few others. There's The Knot. There's a few websites like this, and their prices are all different in different ranges. So, some very successful wedding officiants have told me that websites like The Knot and Wedding Wire have given them the most business. And I never tried The Knot. I tried Wedding Wire, and I didn't go for the top tier. I went for the second tier, and the price was prohibitive, and you're stuck with a year-long contract. I think now it's a 6-month contract, and I had nothing from it. I had a few leads that were just the same leads that I got from Thumbtack and from from Gigmasters. There's a few other websites, Gig Salad. Sometimes I'll get weddings from there. So what I would say is probably Wedding Wire is worth if you're for that top tier, which is very expensive. And there are people who make a lot of money doing weddings. Now, part of my thing is that I'm an Orthodox rabbi. I'm not going to do weddings on Saturdays because I don't drive on Saturdays. I mean, possibly, maybe if they put me up in a hotel and paid me a lot of money and they would let me, sign the paperwork after the Sabbath or before the Sabbath, something like that, I could consider. But it becomes cost prohibitive on both sides for something like that, for the hotel costs and just the fact that I'm spending the whole weekend away from home. And yes, theoretically I could do it, and the thing is, of course, most weddings are on Saturdays, particularly the big weddings that people are paying a lot of money for. Weddings that they might pay the officiant something like $700 for. Again, for that $700, it's worthwhile for me to go stay in a hotel, perhaps. Maybe yes, maybe no. Depends. Is there something in walking distance? And is it really even worth it for me? And most people don't have those types of budgets, but there are many couples who do. My personal philosophy has always been I'd rather do 10 $100 weddings than one $700 wedding. And if I can once in a while do those $700 weddings, I would be open to them. But again, I haven't had that experience. And also, I don't feel so confident, even though I have tremendous experience and good reviews. I don't feel very confident to ask that type of money for a wedding. Now, have I been given that type of money for a wedding? Once in a while, yes. Particularly if I had to travel far. Once it was a friend of mine, and I wasn't going to charge them anything. I knew both the bride and the groom. I wasn't going to charge them anything, and they gave me something I think it was more than $700. There was another case where I was asked, and that was a Jewish wedding. Another case, also a Jewish wedding, and both of them happened to be in Maryland. So another case, which was in Maryland, went down to do a Jewish wedding. Also, traveling very far, so I asked a high amount of money. But in general, I'm not going to ask a lot of money for a wedding. My average wedding is generally less than $250, and the average price is $175. That's including everything, including my travel, and for me, it's worthwhile for me on a day off from work. That's about what I make on a good day at work. I have 3 different days a week that I work as a chaplain with a contract with the state, and some days I'm making I make about that on my full day of work, and then I have a half day which I make almost half of that, a little bit more than half of that, and that's my normal. So it's worthwhile for me if I'm gonna anyway travel 90 minutes each way to go to work and work for a whole day and make that much money. If I'm going to travel maybe 2 or 3 hours away, it depends on the mileage and so forth, and only going to work for 10 minutes really, maybe a half hour, maybe I'm sitting around sitting there for an hour or two. Still, it's worthwhile for me, that amount of money. But it usually depends where am I traveling to, tolls and things. So my average asking price will be $50 for the ceremony, about $20 to $30, $25 generally for just an advertising fee, which I used to charge less, but I learned how that works, to cover my expenses and that. And then the rest of the fee will usually be mileage, 50 cents a mile, so $1 a mile, it's 50 cents each way. And so therefore, if I'm traveling a bit more, if it's up to around 100 miles, maybe even sometimes 120 miles, I'll accept between 175 and 200, and then once I'm already traveling a bit more, I'll ask 200, 250. Generally that's for the travel. So, for example, Philadelphia, if I go a route that is maybe not as quick, the regular quick route is 175 miles, about 170 miles. There is a route that takes longer, but it's shorter. That's about 140 miles, 145 miles thereabout. So, and also Philadelphia is a fun city to visit. There's, museums and stuff. So sometimes, I'll go with my family, take my wife and kids, go to visit a museum or something while we're there. So that would make it worthwhile to go on the trip just for fun. So then, generally for Philadelphia, I'll generally ask $250, but if they ask for a lower price, like today, they asked for $200, even though I'm not taking my family with me because they're cleaning for Pesach and stuff. They asked I think I asked $225. They asked if I'll do $200, and I accepted it, and we'll see what we got. But interestingly, today I had another wedding, which is part of the reason why I didn't take my family also, because I'm not spending that much time in Philly. I thought I was going to spend the whole day there, and actually I'm just getting there for the wedding, basically. I got another wedding which was local, and it used to be that I would for a local wedding ask a lower price, 100, 125, 150. Now I'm deciding, in general, for a Sunday I'm going to start at 175, and if they want a lower price, I'll work with them, especially if it's local, because in some ways if you ask too low of a price, they don't respect you as much. Also, they think, well, what kind of service am I going to get for such a low price? So that's something to consider, because again, I used to just do weddings for $20, $50, $80, whatever it is, and I'm still willing to do that depending on the locality, depending on, various factors. I mean, I got a request today for a wedding also in Philly, and they asked, well, what's your price? I said, I'm asking $150 because I'm going to be in Philly anyway, but you name your price. If you want a lower price, I'm there already. You just want me to sign papers. It's not going to take much of my time. If I can come away even with an extra $50, it's worth it for me. But I didn't hear back from them. Again, if that just helps to cover the expenses. Now, and sometimes it would even, I've had couples who met me at the same venue at a park, or, I had one time, it was like in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I had a wedding at a park. I had, a request for 2 other weddings somewhere a bit further away, and I named my price. They said, well, what if we traveled to where you are, and you're going to be in Allentown at the park? And I said, well, whatever you want to pay me, especially it's not taking my time. And I had another wedding. I actually had 4 weddings in Allentown all in the same day. I mean, when I see that, I see, the hand of God is really in this business. There's tremendous Yata Deshmaya, tremendous divine providence, but so what are we talking about here? So, I don't know, whatever it was like 2 for 1, so like one they gave me, 80, one they gave me 20, whatever, and the main one that I came for, I asked $175, and then I was able to help these other couples out, just signing their papers, doing a quick elopement, whereas the other one was more of a wedding with the family, and they got dressed up a little bit. I mean, it was a little quirky, it was fun, a little different, but that's what I remember. Now, again, so people asking, so how do you get into this business? How do you get the leads? So like I said, for some people, wed plan, these are great. For some people, going to the wedding expos, the wedding shows, the bridal shows work great. I mean, you're going to spend like $300 for a booth at the wedding show. You better hope you book at least 1 or 2 weddings. And I did 2 wedding shows, and I didn't book any weddings. And there was another officiant there. The first time he had booked a few weddings, and this was an officiant who charges a lot of money. Again, people who are interested enough to go to wedding shows are going to ask for more. And he had a good presentation. Me, I'm much more simple. I don't have as much money to invest into the business. So, and I wanted to work with him. He had reasons why he didn't want to accept me into his ministry. So, you have a lot of, information with all of that, mainly because of my restrictions, what kind of weddings I can do, when I'm available, and so forth. He didn't really want to work with me. So how do I get my leads again? So the leads that I would get would be, like I said, Thumbtack is my number one. Now, Thumbtack is a website of all different types of services, not just weddings. You're looking for a psychologist, you're looking for a lawyer, you're looking for a painter, you're looking for a plumber, you're looking for a music teacher. Whatever you're looking for, a translator, an editor, whatever types of services you're looking for, you can find on Thumbtack. Now, Thumbtack does not cost anything to be on the site. To get the leads is totally free. What you have to do is you have to answer the leads. Generally, you have to pay. Some leads are free, and they'll usually start you off with a free package, especially if you're in a location that doesn't have a lot of people servicing that location. They'll even some free credits. You buy credits, and the more credits you buy, if you buy them in bulk, you get a bit of a discount on the credits. But you can buy 1 credit, or you could buy 100 credits. Generally, at this point, I'll buy them at the rate of 20 credits, which is about $30 for 20 credits, which you get 10% off if you would buy credit by credit. If you buy less than 20 credits, you're paying 10% more than if you were going to just buy if you're buying in bulk. Once in a while, especially if I don't have much money in the bank or whatever, I'll do the 1 credit or something, especially, and I'll be careful with what I buy, because again, I have a, I have a very low budget doing weddings. I do make a profit generally. Certainly through the year I'm making a profit, but some months I'm losing and some months I'm making. In February I lost money on weddings, but in January and March I made a profit. Not a tremendous profit, but enough that I'll have cash to get to work, 3 days a week. The other days I work, and pay some extra bills, just get along. And it's really a blessing to be able to serve people at such a joyous occasion. So I enjoy it also. And I had quite a few local weddings also, which was pretty good. Generally local. Areas I usually wouldn't see near me, though, within a 40-mile, 50-mile radius. Places I've never visited before, which is always interesting and fun to see new places, see different things. Which is part of the reason why, mostly people in their homes just want to be married. Sometimes they'll invite their friends over, especially work you need to have. So Thumbtack, you'll be spending generally anywhere between 3 credits, which is about $4 or $5, to could be 7 or 8 credits, which is closer to $10 per wedding, per lead. Up to 5 people can bid on the lead that's available. Now, the nice thing is that if they don't open the lead within 48 hours, you get your credits back. So you can sometimes double or triple your money, the value of your credits, by using these credits. Hope that the people don't open it before 48 hours. Sometimes they'll even have their phone number there, and you can actually call or text them and introduce yourself that way without having to go to the website and then tell them after 48 hours, then we can communicate through the website. The website is very good for communicating, as what I've seen. Some people are not happy with it, but in general, I've been very happy with the communication using the Thumbtack website. I think it's fantastic interface. You can make a beautiful profile with pictures and videos and audio samples. You can, have about me. You can have links to your Twitter and your Facebook and your website, and you have reviews, and they're very generous. You can really just get, anybody who you ever, served to leave a review. You could just put up on your Facebook account and ask for reviews, on your Thumbtack account, ask for reviews, and anyone can really give you a review. So, although they do mark which reviews come from people that you hired through Thumbtack and which reviews come elsewhere. But it's great, I have over 90 reviews, mostly good. There are 2 or 3 bad ones on Thumbtack, but the good ones override that. Also, even if they did open the thing and you find that it's something that you wouldn't have bid on if you had some more information, or you find that it was fraudulent in some way, that it wasn't a real review, a real lead or something like that, then they're very generous in refunding credits, and also sometimes even giving free credits, especially if you're doing business with them a lot. I'll tend to spend between $200 and $400 a month in credits on Thumbtack. I'll generally, the average that most people see on Thumbtack is you'll get 1 out of every 10 bid you're hiring. So let's say you're spending $5 on each bid, which is usually sometimes more, sometimes it's $7, $8. So you're gonna, if they are all open right away and so forth, you might be spending $50 for every winning bid. However, like I said, if they don't open it in 48 hours and so forth, that goes down to, and then you use those credits again, you're cutting that in half. It'll be $25, and that's what I usually will charge, between 20. Also, if something is more local now, I'll maybe put some more of the burden of the expenses onto something more local. So, if someone's only 50, I usually, when I give my quote, I explain my price structure. Why am I asking this amount of money? I'll say, I'll start off, I'll write, I have like templates that I use, and that's another nice thing about Thumbtack, is they have these templates that, you can reuse the messages that you've used before, and now they'll put the people's names into, whereas this dear so-and-so, they'll actually change the names, for you automatically, so you don't have to fumble doing that, because sometimes, especially like in big cities, it could be like a cutthroat thing. Like you can miss, a bid on Thumbtack, very quickly, because only 5 people can bid. And then usually if they open, send a follow-up letter. If they don't open after 48 hours, fine. And I say, and I personalize it. They'll say, what kind of ceremony do you want? Do you want a non-denominational ceremony? Do you want a non-religious ceremony? Meaning non-denominational doesn't belong to any particular religion, but it will mention God. Non-religious doesn't mention God. It's totally a civil ceremony. Do you want a ceremony, whatever religion, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever, things like that. And usually they'll, mention other things like, we want more of a funny ceremony, we want, whatever, different ceremonies in the ceremony, unity ceremonies like the sand ceremony, the unity candles, things like that, which I'll explain in a different video. And so I reflect that in my bid letter, and I also explain my cost structure. I'll say, $100 for mileage and tolls, $25 for Thumbtack, and $50 for the ceremony, and that's how I get this bid of $175. And if it's 150 miles away, it'll be $225. And sometimes when you're traveling a little bit further, I feel personally like I want to ask maybe a bit more. I don't feel bad to ask $250 when I'm going 150 miles, and say, it's $25 for Thumbtack and $75 for the ceremony and $150 for mileage and tolls, And then again, some people are willing to give it, some people are not, some people can afford it, some people can't, some people wind up giving more. Everybody's different. And so you gauge these things, sometimes folks are like, well, we spend so much on the wedding, we can't spend that much on the officiant. Some people are like, well, we're not spending that much on the wedding, we can spend more on the officiant. Some people think, what I would consider a high price, they consider a low price, and it's very hard to gauge that, but you get a knack for it, because again, some people I've had people tell me they're offended that my price was too low. So different things like that are important to be aware of. And generally it's very easy. Gigmasters is a different, so also, like for example, if I see a wedding that's a day that I wouldn't do, it's a Saturday, it's a Jewish holiday, even if it's a Friday afternoon or Friday night, I'm not even going to spend the credits to bid on that, so I don't have to waste money on things that I'm not interested in. If I know I'm booked already and it's too far away, sometimes I can book 2 weddings in the same day, or even 3 or 4 weddings in the same day, which is great. It doesn't happen too often, but like today I have 2 weddings, So you have these things, and you become aware, and you learn how to do this business. So there's a lot what to talk about. And then there's the other website, Gigmasters, that you pay an annual fee. You don't pay per lead. And then you pay a booking fee when you book And unless you pay, and technically, even though you're not supposed to do this, since you have the information, you could book without paying the booking fee. The only thing is, if you don't pay the booking fee, they can't leave a review. And also, it looks good on your list that you have the booking fee, that you've booked weddings. It's about $20, the booking fee, or 10% of your fee if it's more than $200. You can itemize, travel and so forth. If it's more than $200, it's worth it to itemize the hotel and things like that. So with that website, since I paid for all my leads already, I paid for the year, and it's not that much money. It's like $300 for the year. It's definitely worth it. I definitely make more than that in the year. I don't get quite as many leads and quite as many bookings as Thumbtack, but it's definitely worthwhile for the low price. With that website, that's just how I will bid on just about every wedding. Sometimes I'll say, if on Saturday, if I'm going to ask you, a lot of money for a Saturday wedding, but if you want to switch to Sunday, I can offer you a lower price. Sometimes people are offended by that. Some people are like, oh, I actually wanted to do a Sunday, but I didn't think I could find anybody. That never hurts to ask, So in general, that's just how it is. That's just my experience booking weddings. And again, it's the same thing. And then my next video, or in a future video, I'll explain, more of the mechanics of doing weddings. All right, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and God bless.